This is a quick video on ELD features on the Coretex dashboard. We'll be covering just those features that apply to ELD. From the dashboard in the center, we see the ELD widget. At the top is the driver name, and to the right of the driver name is the menu. Just beneath that is the horseshoe that displays the remaining time. It's a countdown, a burn down, showing the remaining drive time available. This will change depending on the driver's rule set and the driver's current status. If the driver is on duty or driving, that will be a burn down showing how much time available to drive before the next required break, whether that be a 30-minute, 10-hour restart, or a 34-hour cycle restart. If the driver is off duty or in sleeper berth, that will be a burn down to how much time that driver needs to remain off duty before they gain additional drive time. Beneath that horseshoe is the status change bar. Tapping on that will allow the driver to manually change his status at any time. So we'll start at the top with the menu bar. Tapping on menu, we have three options. The main option here is view logs. Tapping on view logs allows me to view my current log and the previous 7 days of logs. There are three portions of the driver log view. The first is the header, where I can view based on the vehicle I've selected and the logs that are recorded, my total engine hours for this day, the total distance traveled, and any unidentified records that belong to this vehicle. We'll discuss that in a separate video. Beneath the header, I've got the graph. That's the graph that everyone's used to. Shows the 4 statuses with a green line for each status, unless the status is off-duty personal conveyance. Off-duty is displayed in green, but personal conveyance is displayed on the off-duty line in yellow. On-duty is displayed in green, but on-duty yard move is displayed in yellow on the on-duty line. Over to the right, I've got the hours and minutes for each status for that day. Below the graph, I've got a certification bar. It'll either say not certified or it'll say certified and the date and time. And then the bottom section is my detail. By default, we're showing only status change events. That's on-duty, off-duty, sleeper berth, break, and off-duty. But if I want to see other ELD certification related events that aren't necessarily represented on the graph, but that I might be interested in seeing below, I can tap show all events. This includes things like driver login, log out, power up, power down, adding a vehicle, adding a shipment, certifying my log, adding trailers, diagnostic events and malfunctions, and remarks. So there's a lot more events here with the ELD mandate. They require that we post a number of events. But then we've also posted some events that might be useful for the driver, like when was a shipment added, when was a trailer or vehicle added. I can go back to just showing my status change events by tapping on the Show Status Events Only button. Much shorter list, just the events that are displayed on the graph. If I want to see a previous day's log, I can swipe to the right and keep swiping to the right or to the left to go to a subsequent day, or I can use the two buttons at the top, previous day and next day, to navigate. Again, based on rule set 7 days and the current day, unless you have a rule set that requires we display more days if you're using 8-day or if you're in Canada. There are 4 options at the top of the driver log view. Unidentified, I can tap on that to view any unidentified driver records for my currently selected vehicle. We will cover that in more detail in a separate video. Certify button, which allows me to certify a driver log. If I've already certified the log, that button will say recertify. Tapping on the button will allow me to agree that my logs are true and correct for the current period. I'll tap agree, and then just underneath the graph, a banner will display that the log is certified with the date and time that I certified it. Any change I make to this log, an add or an edit, or accepting a supervisor proposal, or for the current day, adding a new log event, will uncertify my log and I'll have to recertify. Now, a driver can come into the driver logs and certify a log at any time, but you will be prompted to certify at login and log out, so you don't have to remember to come in here during the day to certify. The third option at the top is the edit button. Again, we'll cover this in a separate video, but this is where I would go to change something on my log, to add information, to change the time of an event, or to add a new event. And then the final option here is roadside inspection. That's an important feature. You'll have a cab card to be kept in the cab at all times that will explain this, this roadside inspection feature. It's a button to push when a safety officer is inspecting your logs at roadside. Tapping roadside inspection will place the tablet in inspection mode, and we'll cover that again in a separate video. We're going to press the back button at the top left, the back arrow, to return back to the driver dashboard. So tapping on menu again on the ELD widget, we covered view logs. The next item we're going to cover is remarks. Tapping on remark allows me to add an annotation to my log. For example, fueling. Notice that there's an autocomplete on the keyboard. So I just tapped fuel, I can type fueling and it completes it for me, and tap OK. I've now added an annotation to my log of fueling for the current time. If I click on view logs and scroll all the way to the bottom of my log, I'll see that fueling event that we just added. So there it is at the very, very bottom, remark fueling. Going back to the ELD dashboard, if I tap menu, shipments is the third option. Shipments is a feature that is not going to be used by everyone. You may work for a shipper that, you may work for an operating authority that always ships the same thing, that always hauls the same item. In that case, that company may have hard-coded a shipment to your log, and you won't have to add a shipment. But however, if you do want to add a shipment number to your log, you can at any time by tapping shipments and then typing in your shipment number and click done and add. So I've added a shipment to my log. I can add additional shipments by typing another shipment, done, and add. And I've got 2 selected now. I can now click save, and it will save those shipments to my current log and all subsequent ELD events. If I want to review them, I can tap menu and shipment again. And now I can see those 2. If I tap on the red X to the right for either of them, I can delete one or more of them and click save. They're now removed. Anytime you log in, when you start your day, you will see a shipment notification card on the right. We'll talk about notification cards in a moment. But starting with shipments, if I don't have a shipment, you'll see that card. Tapping on that card will also take you to shipments and then dismiss the card. So speaking of notification cards, any important items required for ELD compliance or administrative tasks required throughout the day will advise you by placing a notification card on the dashboard. They are color-coded. The red notification cards indicate a malfunction or a diagnostic event. You'll be provided with a cheat sheet explaining malfunctions and diagnostics in the cab. They're also listed in the driver guide. But most of these are not actionable. They're there just to advise you that there's an issue with the ELD, either something like that there's a problem with finding position. In this case, at the very top, it says that it's searching for the ELD. It's not able to connect to the vehicle, and that's because I'm not at the vehicle. But that's a good example of an ELD event, something that I need to be aware of. Just underneath the red ones will be items that are required for compliance. Things like a notification to certify my logs, notification that there are unidentified driving events that need to be reviewed, supervisor proposals that need to be reviewed, and then just reminders, things like the shipment card reminder at the bottom, a reminder to perform a pre-trip if I haven't performed one. So as these notification cards come up throughout the day, drivers are encouraged to tap on the card and complete the action. I'll tap on shipments, for example, which will take me to the shipment screen. I'll type a shipment, add, and save, and I'll be taken back to the dashboard, and that shipment card is gone. Certify logs, I'll tap on that. It'll take me to the oldest uncertified log where I can certify, and then return to the dashboard until I've certified all of my logs. I'm going to now certify Monday. Now it's taking me to Sunday, and I've completed my certification of my logs. So that's something to keep an eye on throughout the day. Further down, back to the ELD widget, we talked about menu, but at the bottom, I want to talk about status change for a moment. When I log in and I select my initial status of on duty, I really don't need to change my status again until I go on break. The ELD will automatically move you between on duty and driving status throughout the day because we're connected to the vehicle engine and we can detect when the vehicle is in motion. So when the vehicle starts moving, you will be automatically moved into driving status. When the vehicle stops moving, you'll be automatically moved into on-duty status. When you want to take a break, you will need to tap Change Status and Break. When you're done with break, you'll tap Change Status and then go back on duty. You'll also need to use the Change Status if you're using a special status condition like Yard Move. So if I want to use Yard Move, I'll tap Change Status, Yard Move. I'm prompted for an annotation, but for Yard Move, it's optional, so I can just tap OK, and I'm now in Yard Move status. I can now move my vehicle around the yard without being moved into driving status automatically. Another one is personal conveyance. If I'm using my vehicle for personal use, I do, in this case, have to put a comment. So I might put, for example, driving home, and then OK. And my status will change to personal conveyance. And then when I'm done, I can just tap and go back to whatever status I want to go into. This change status is also the button that I will use to sign out. So I tap change status and then sign out. We'll cover that in a separate video. Before I go on to a multiple driver feature, I just want to point out one feature on the dashboard that's not easily visible. If I swipe down a notification, there are always two notifications related to Coretex dashboard. The first one just says Coretex Drive tap to launch. If I tap that, it will always take me back to the dashboard. So if you're in another app or you're on the tablet home screen and you wonder how to find your dashboard, just wherever you are, swipe down a notification and tap Coretex Drive. The other one is also very important. This second one that says not connected to black box will always be there. You can't dismiss it, and it will always tell you whether you're connected to your vehicle's ELD or not. In this case, I'm not connected, so that's important to know. If I'm in my vehicle and my engine's running and it says not connected, I know something's wrong. I want this to say connected to black box before I start my day. All right, so let's go on to code drivers. On the right-hand side, you'll notice that on the left-hand side, you'll notice in the top left, there's a button that says add driver. If a single driver is logged in and you want to log in a code driver, you just would tap add driver. The code driver would enter in their PIN number, select their initial status, and that will complete the login. Now notice that this code driver has a special option, in charge of vehicle. The second person logging in will be asked, are you becoming the primary driver? This is because we automatically make the first driver the driver in charge. So if this second driver logging in is code driver, I'll just select on duty. And my login's complete. All right, so we've got two drivers. We've got on-screen driver David Blackwell. In the top left, we've got another driver, John Smith. If I want to switch to John Smith, I'll just tap on John, and now John is the driver in focus. Notice that only driver David has the steering wheel icon on their widget. So if I'm going to bring David into focus, it's the steering wheel just next to on-duty status change. That indicates that David is the driver in charge, and John, no steering wheel. If I want to change John to driver in charge, I'm going to tap on status change, in charge of vehicle. John is now the primary driver. If the vehicle starts moving, John will be moved automatically into driving status. We do support multiple drivers. If I want to log in a third driver, I can just tap add driver again and enter that driver's PIN. And that is a summary of the ELD features on the driver dashboard.